What's up, everybody? My name is Phil. Welcome back to another episode of Philosophies in the Weeds, episode 2. So today we're going to be talking about weed in sports. I played sports through my entire life, starting from when I was like 4 years old, all the way up through high school, on to college. Played soccer at Coastal Carolina University. And then I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to go on to play professionally in Costa Rica. And I was never a, frequent cannabis user in college or, before college necessarily. I mean, every once in a while, I'd smoke with my friends and, everybody'd get a little stoned and we'd all get the munchies. I would eat way more than most of my friends, but, that's either here nor there. So, in my perspective, I think that cannabis has the potential to really help athletes in their recovery process, whether it be after a practice or after a game, long training sessions. Their bodies are breaking down, and a lot of them, including myself, would have really been able to just kind of unwind a little bit easier with a natural substance like cannabis. So I wanted to show you guys this article that actually my dad sent me. Thanks, Dad. A couple days ago on ESPN. And so basically, the article's from last year down here, March 2019. But at the same time, I thought it was still kind of relevant to today, because there's really not been any movement forward since then to a huge degree from what I've looked over. I think MLB might have adjusted some of their policies, but this article is actually talking specifically about the NHL, the National Hockey League. So the title of the article is "The NHL, the Future of Marijuana in Pro Sports and Why It Could Be." The article goes on to talk about Player X, someone in the NHL who lives in one of these states that has either a recreational or a medical program in their states. They'd go out to dinner and then he'd order a steak, medium rare, blah, blah, blah. But then sometimes he'd get home and after a long day of training or practice or game or whatever, he'd want to unwind, just, taking a couple rips off of a vaporizer pen. So off a reach for his weed pen and take a few hits just to relax. Just to relax, unwind. Honestly, it's the easiest and most natural way for me to fall asleep and be ready for the next day. For a lot of people, this is the case. I mean, it's similar to like having a glass of wine or, that's really the only, or having a beer or two, I guess. I don't know, taking a shot. Then you start getting into weird how the body is affected by each different kind of alcohol and alcohol percentage types and stuff like that. Anyways, and also vaporizer pens typically tend to be higher THC content percentage than flower. Pens typically range anywhere from mid to upper 60s all the way up to, I've seen pens that have 95% THC content, which is pretty potent and is going to knock most people for a loop. So the other reason why I wanted to show you guys this article is because I thought it was interesting that the article actually highlights the cannabis laws per city per sport league. So right here you already see 90% of the cities in the NHL have legal access to THC. 90%. That's a lot. And almost 50% of them are recreational. So you could literally just go to a weed shop if you're 21 or older. For most states, I'm pretty sure it's 21 or older. I don't think any of them are 18 or older, but I could be wrong. But yeah, walk into a rec shop, get you some flowers or some concentrates or some topicals or what have you, whatever your preferred method is, and, you're good to go. Then scroll down a little bit. Then they talk about all the other leagues. But then they go down, and I actually covered this in episode 1, which was the current state of the union in terms of legality, both recreational and medically, across the whole entire United States and our territories and the Native American reservations and stuff like that. So for the most part, they still have, all of these, all the reds are the recreational, all the blues are medicinal, and the grays are where THC is still unfortunately completely illegal. I think some of this might have changed in the past year, but none of them jump right out at me. Well, actually, Virginia jumps out at me because I know that they're getting their medical program up and running. I think that for the most part, unfortunately, the Bible Belt's going to stay. THC is a no-no. But we'll see. I mean, I think that the tides are definitely turning. The Cannabis Laws by NFL City, that's another one, because, I mean, one of the biggest advocates for cannabis legalization has been Ricky Williams, former running back for the Miami Dolphins, and I think he played for someone else. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he's, ardent supporter of cannabis, has been a frequent user, ended up getting popped a couple times when he was in the NFL for THC in his system. But his claim was, this is what I use to unwind. And in my perspective as both a former professional athlete and also a advocate for consumers and patients alike, it's a much better alternative than putting somebody on painkillers or opiates or like psychotropics that are going to really mess with someone's neural chemistry in potentially very detrimental ways. To allow someone to use a plant, smoke it or otherwise, and have them be punished for that, I think is doing a great disservice to the public good. But that's just my opinion. But as you see here, 50% of the cities that have NFL teams already have medical cannabis, and 28% have recreational cannabis. So 78% of the NFL cities already have legal access to THC. NBA is a little bit lower, 73.3%. Obviously, you've got major cities, Denver, Seattle, LA, Sacramento, Golden State. Let's see who else I can name off the top of my head. Those are like the big ones in terms of like the pioneering states, Colorado, Washington, and California, for legalization. But I know that, obviously that's moved across the states in a lot of ways. Then we get down here, 86 MLB. I forgot this was so high. 86.7% of the cities in Major League Baseball have access to cannabis, THC. Pretty awesome. Up until now, all urine tests were screened. Up until 2016, 2017, this is obviously the NHL, were screened for substances on the NHL, NHLPA, the Players Association's banned list. Then 30% of those tests were given additional screening looking for drugs of abuse, such as cocaine or marijuana. This is called survey testing. However, a change was made in July 2016. Now labs screen 100% of the urine tests for drugs of abuse. When asked for the impetus for the change, Daly said that the league had wanted to do this for some time. Any change in policy must jointly be agreed upon between the league and the players' associations. However, it should be noted that in October 2015, Daly said in an interview with TSN that he was concerned about the number of cocaine positives the league was seeing in survey testing. So, got some cocaine users in the NHL. But I don't think that's probably just strictly NHL with that kind of a common substance consumption. Here's the things interesting. This place, blah, blah, blah. For drugs of abuse, he's not going to be punished. Oh, interesting. So, player X tests come back positive for a drug of abuse. He's not going to be punished. Interesting. So, players, teachers have normally high levels of THC, then they flag it. Oh, so you have to be a super hardcore user with high content levels in your blood for them to do anything about it. Interesting. But again, like, the league's not going to punish anybody for using cannabis, it seems like. Anyways, that's kind of my take on it. I mean, I really just think that, athletes need to have access to alternative medicine. THC being obviously the topic at hand. I think it has way more efficacy than some of the stuff that they're shooting these athletes full of, or letting them just pop pills and do all sorts of things. I mean, look at, Junior Seau is a sad example, but he's just one. The film Concussion was all about, traumatic brain injuries, and what that's done to the just neural capacity of some of these athletes. And I think that cannabis could help to repair some of the damage that's being done. Obviously, it's not going to be the cure-all and fix everything that was going on, but it's a better alternative than just letting these guys suffer in pain and go about their lives with all sorts of dependency issues on drugs that are way worse for you than cannabis. So that's my take on cannabis in sports. If you guys liked it, cool, throw me a like. If you want to know whenever I drop a new video, hit subscribe. If you have something to say, if I got something wrong, let me know. If there's been a more recent article than what you just saw pop up in terms of any of the league's rulings on or regulations regarding cannabis consumption in terms of their athletes consuming it, let me know. I'm happy to look at anything that's more recent than that. That was just, again, an article my dad sent me the other day, and I thought it was cool and interesting and something that everybody would potentially care to know about. So that being said, as always, live long and prosper. Peace out, everybody.